Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of season 3 of the House of Gouldians. So today's episode is one that I find particularly fascinating. I have a background in psychology and obviously I have a love for the Gouldian finch, and as a result I spend a lot of time in my bedroom with a cup of coffee just observing what is going on. And this has given me some unique insights into some of their behaviour that I thought I would share with you today. Now, one of the previous episodes on the channel is all about the sort of knowing when your birds are in breeding condition, and part of that episode we touched on some of the behaviour with that regard. This is kind of the sequel to it because we're now looking at the actual nesting behaviour as such. It cuts down the amount of inspections we need to do if we understand this behaviour and what to look for. Now, there's exceptions to every rule, and we understand that. So if a bird particularly is like hand-reared or particularly tame for some reason, you've spent a lot of time with the bird, they may be more tolerant of nest inspections. But as a general rule, every time you interrupt them, you scare them off the nest, you poking around the nest, you risk a chance of them abandoning their chicks. And that is why I thought I would help you out today by looking at some of the common behaviour. That's not always the case, but it's a good indicator. And this would then help you cut down on some of those nest inspections. Now, if we have to be totally honest with ourselves, a lot of the nest inspections are totally unnecessary in the sense that nothing we can do would change the outcome. What do I mean by that? So, for example, if I have a clutch of eggs and they are infertile, whether I know on day 3 or 4 or whether I know on day 14 theoretically doesn't change the outcome. Now you might say, oh, but I can take the infertile eggs away and let them lay a new clutch of eggs. The problem with that theory is that your hens, if they produce too many eggs in a short space of time, are going to egg bound. And that doesn't matter whether you're giving them calcium supplements or not. The hens need a time lapse to go between when they last lay the egg of the previous clutch and when they start laying the next clutch. And the reason for that is they need time to recoup some of the calcium that they've given away to the first clutch of eggs. So they need to reabsorb calcium, in other words, and then build up their resources before they lay the next clutch. So either way, you have to wait a minimum, I would say, of at least 3-4 weeks, if not longer, before you try and breed a second clutch from that hen, even though the first clutch may be infertile. Alright, so that's kind of the backdrop to some of the behavior we're going to be discussing today, and sort of something to think about on, well, why are you really inspecting the nest? Is it for your own curiosity, to satisfy your own excitement, or is it actually for the bird's benefit? Right, so let's get stuck into it. So this season I've bred 15 out of 17 pairs. I've only had to do very few nest inspections at different stages, and I'll explain to you when I do them what I'm looking for in the interim so that I don't have to do this in many. Alright, so the first thing is you see them starting to take grass into the nest. So typically you've done the courtship behaviour that we discussed in a previous episode, and your cockbird has now taken the grass into the nest. It's very easy to tell because the grass at the bottom of the cage or in your grass nesting sort of holder, if you like, that grass is going to disappear, and they use a lot of it. So it's obvious when they've started building a nest. Okay, great. So now the temptation is to have a look to see when eggs are being laid. Now, really, this is completely and utterly unnecessary. So you say, but hang on, I can't see in the box unless I put a camera. How am I going to know when that first egg is laid? Well, it's quite simple, really. First thing you do in the morning when you come and switch on the lights of your bedroom, you're having your morning coffee. Come and take a seat. And what you'll notice is that your hens disappear. And they'll disappear for about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and then they'll be out again, and they'll carry on like normal, and perhaps the cockbird will go and inspect to see what's going on. It's a good sign if it's first thing in the morning that she's laying that first egg. And to understand why that is, we need to take 2 steps back. So what typically happens when you switch on the lights first thing, your cocks start to court the hens. They do their courtship dance. Will then mate with the hen. So you will get 1 egg being deposited every day. So now we know that when she's disappearing in the morning, she has an egg to lay. All right, so that's sort of step number 1, if you like. Now you make a note of that. Now, how do you know when you're going to expect those eggs to start hatching? Well, that's actually also quite simple. So when you come to switch off the lights in the evening, take a few minutes to observe which hens are missing. So in other words, they're in the box for the night. Now, if the hen has not started incubating, she will be sitting outside the nest box on a perch next to the male or close to the male, and she may be sitting in front of the nest box by the entrance, but she won't be inside the nest box. And that is a surefire way of telling that she hasn't started incubating. The moment she's inside the box at night, you know that incubation has started and that you can start counting down 14 days. Now, you might say, yes, but I saw the cock and the hen in and out the box during the day. Now, that can happen, and they do spend a lot of time in the nest once the eggs have started being laid, but that doesn't mean incubation has started. The sort of more reliable behavior is that what I've just spoken about, where your hen is sitting in the box at night. Right. So what's the next piece of behavior, or behavior number 3 that we're looking for? Now that we know that the eggs are close to hatching. Yeah, it does differ a little bit from pair to pair, but what I typically find is that the hen and the cocks will alternate during the day, the incubation, but only the hens really incubate at night. What's different is that normally during the day, when the cockbird relieves the hen, she will exit the box, go and eat, go and get a bit of exercise, drink, and then she will return to the box, and the cockbird will then exit the box and take a break, and he'll go and sit in the corner of the cage and preen and do whatever he's going to do. But he might even be adding a bit of grass to the nest, but he's in and out. And when he's relieving the hen, she will come out and he will be in, but at night it's only the hen. So what do we look for to know that our chicks have actually hatched? Now, bear in mind, the worst thing you want to do is look in the nest on day 14. Because if those eggs are in the middle of hatching and you scare both parents off the nest to now do an inspection, often they then reject those chicks, because in their minds they left eggs and they came back and you have put something in the nest that doesn't belong there. Okay. So it's very important that you do not disturb them on the day that those chicks actually hatch. But at the same time, you want to know when to start looking to make sure that they're not chucking the babies out the nest, particularly if it's a young male. So how do we know that? Well, if you, once again, having your cup of coffee and those chicks have started hatching, 9 times out of 10, both parents will spend a lot of time in the box. So in other words, when the cockbird goes in the morning to relieve the hen won't just come out. The 2 of them will sit there together, and they're kind of watching the chicks hatch. They're busy picking off eggshells, they're digesting the eggshells, they might be throwing the empty eggshells out. Sometimes they do that as well. And then later you'll see that the cockbird will come out or the hen bird will come out and they'll come and feed. But they spend a lot of time that first day or 2 together in the box. And that's the key difference, is that they're spending time as a pair in the box, inspecting the new little ones and helping them hatch and feed and all that kind of thing. You'll then find that it eases off and they'll slowly start changing between the two. And the other thing is, you will hear, as you can hear in the background now, chicks calling for food. You'll start hearing that fine sound of the chicks calling the parents. Now, that is typically when I do my first nest inspection. Now, you might say, yeah, but I record how many eggs are laid, how many are infertile, and all that kind of thing. Well, realistically, it's not going to change the outcome. The outcome is they laid, let's say, 6 eggs for argument's sake. You counted that as the hen was disappearing each day in the morning, and only 3 of them are in the box. Maybe there's 2 eggs that were infertile, they'll still be in the box. There might be one that broke, so maybe that was chucked out, and you'll see it because the yolk is still in there on the cage floor. So now I know, well, I had 6 eggs, that behaviour told me that. The number of unhatched eggs in the nest tells me that. The number of chicks told me what the difference is between the unhatched and the hatched. And then any sort of broken eggs would have been expelled anyway, so I'll see them on the cage floor, and that gives me any other missing ones from the behavioural aspect that we've spoken about. So I know exactly how many were laid. I know when they started laying them. I know when they started incubating them. I know when they were hatched. And that's all based on behaviour. And I haven't had to do a single nest inspection. So why do I do it at days when I start hearing that calling for food, or which is roughly day 3 after hatching? Now I'm wanting to see, well, how are the babies progressing? Because typically, if there's going to be chicks that have died straight off the bat, I want to take those dead bodies out, so there's a valid reason for that. And that does serve a benefit, because you're not having rotting flesh that can make the surviving young sick. So that I can then prepare, and I know how many birds I'm expecting to ring and all that kind of thing. I'm obviously by this stage giving lots of soft food and that kind of stuff, so I can also tell, okay, there's only 3 chicks, so they only need a little bit of soft food, or there's a big clutch, so therefore I need to give quite a few or quite a bit of soft food so that they can be fed adequately. So there is a valid reason for that nest inspection. Now, the next inspection I do is roughly day 8 or 9. And once again, we can confirm if we maybe were away when those chicks hatched, exactly when that is, because your parent birds, neither of them, will sleep in the box at night from about day 8. And that roughly coincides with when they're due for ringing. So if you're ringing with the 2.8 ring, 2.8 millimeters that is, then you're wanting to ring at about day 8 or 9. And the reason why you would need to do a nest inspection at that point is to confirm whether they are in fact big enough. Big clutches grow a little bit slower than smaller clutches, because obviously the fewer mouths to feed, the better the parents can cope, and therefore the more food those youngsters are getting. Other factors are, I had this pair directly behind me over here, that pair behind me, where the hen wouldn't let the cockbird feed the young. She would hammer him and chase him around the cage. She really didn't want him anywhere near the nest box for the first about 10 days, and as a result, her youngsters are particularly small because effectively they're underdeveloped, and they were sort of, so we say, struggling because they were only barely surviving. It was a big nest, it was a nest of 6, and she was trying to do it by herself. Now that's not to say they can't handle 6 chicks, but when they're by themselves it is a little bit of a struggle. So if I'd had a pair that were of similar position in breeding, in other words they had chicks at the same sort of age or size, I would have then taken 3 of those chicks out and maybe fostered them under a different pair that didn't have that many, so that she could cope the way she was doing it by herself. Now that is the reason why we would check at day 8 to see whether the chicks that we're wanting to ring are ready to be rung. If they are ready to be rung, obviously you ring them and that's the end of it. If they're not quite there, as you get more experience with Gouldians, you will become aware of the kind of size they need to be for the rings to go on and stay on. or if they're too big now, you can't ring them anymore. So you'll develop that eye over time. And on day 8, when you inspect, you'll see, okay, they're ready and you can do it. Or you know, okay, I need to give them 2 more days. And you'll come back on day 10, you'll inspect, confirm, and ring. And then once you've rung, there really is no point in further nest inspections until they've fledged. Once they've all out the box, you might want to take the box away for a week or 2, just give the hen a chance to settle, for them to feed those young. And then after that, you can then return the nest box and they'll typically start breeding all over again. So yeah, so that's kind of the behavior that I look out for. I find this is very reliable. It's probably 90% accurate. And, you know, I hope it's helped you in that regard. And as a result, you lose less youngsters. If you have enjoyed the episode, please hit the like button and subscribe. Only about 30% of the people who watch this channel are actually subscribed to the channel, and it does help because it lets you know when a new episode does come out, and it helps obviously with views and all that kind of thing. So I would appreciate it. And then the other thing is as well, we're constantly trying to improve. Like this season, we added lighting to all the cages for your benefit. We're still wanting to get better sound quality, and as a result, any donations towards the channel will be greatly appreciated. On the channel's main page for YouTube, there is a PayPal button that you can click on to donate to the channel. We really do appreciate it, and thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.